Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. You're here with two life coaches, and we're talking about inner work, your beautiful work that sometimes doesn't feel so beautiful, right, Laurel? We always talk about this, but it's important that we reiterate it again and again because we want to remind everybody that sometimes the hard work or the messy work can really change things to be more beautiful if you're willing to dig in there and get it done.
That's right. It's almost like when you're cleaning your basement, which I talked about a lot last year because I was in that process. Or you're cleaning out a closet or, you know, things get messy before you're done,
Yeah.
before things are cleaned up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so wow, we had Taylor on last week, and Taylor Stewart, the creator of Conscious Home Design. Wow, I mean, he put so many pieces together around your home, your relationships, your life. So if you missed that conversation, go back and listen to it. It's filled with all kinds of information from Taylor, like why he does what he does and what's the reason behind the importance of paying attention to your home and consciously working with what's around you. So because of that, we have entitled this show, jumping off of the show with Taylor. The title of the show is what is around you is within you. Now, I love this show, Laurel. I feel like we're going to challenge everybody out there to come into challenging maybe some beliefs that you have, and also a willingness to go a little deeper with how you're thinking about your life. Because I believe this with all my heart that if you look around you and you describe it, you'll be describing basically what's within you.
And
Yeah,
it does make me wonder, and I want to talk about this,
we will.
is are there times when what's around you, your external, is simply a mirror of your internal?
Yes, same thing.
So, what's inside you shows up in your surroundings and in what's around you. But what's around you can also be just a mirror of the messy inside.
Yes, yes. Or the controlled inside, right?
Yeah.
Or the I don't know, heartless feeling sense of what's around. Like literally go ahead and look around. So here's the challenge right from the beginning of the show. We're going to do a little how do you work with this right through the whole
Yeah.
show. So right from the beginning, everybody, take a moment, look around you wherever you are right now. If you're at home, if you're not at home, wait to listen to the show until you're at home because it'll be more helpful for you. I think that's my suggestion, and just look around you and start using some phrases and some words to describe what you're seeing and how you're seeing it. All right, so that's where you want to begin this process, and in that process, you get to think about how that relates to your inner life.
Yeah. Your inner being. And I'm so curious because, Taylor talked about your home, right?
Yep.
But could this also show up in other places? Other places where you might live. Your car. My car is a great
Yeah,
example,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? The same type of, I'll say, challenges that
Hmm.
I have in my home decor or my home surroundings, very similar to what's in my car and
Yeah.
how that influences me. And then, in an office space, I know when I worked for years in a cubicle, right?
Mm,
Like
yes.
where do you live? Where do you spend time? And how do the surroundings in those places that you have ownership over?
Right. Right. Yes.
How do the surroundings in those places reflect your inner being?
Yeah. And you really do want to look at it as you have ownership over this
That's
space,
right.
right? Even if you're sharing ownership with those in your home, right? A spouse or a couple or a family, whatever. If you are the leader of that family or one of the leaders of that family, then you want to take responsibility and ownership of that space. And
Yes.
I felt like, what I loved about Taylor's talk was the real importance that he placed on how you can improve your relationships and improve your life through making small changes at home. And so much of it about it was really about, being clear in your intention and being clear in what you wanted more of or how to experience relationships in a different way, right?
Yes.
Because we underestimate, that whole idea of that Harvard study where they really, saw through the research that people, as their lives evolved, really cared about what made their lives better was good relationships.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking around your home, if you're feeling like your relationships are in not in great order, or you don't have the kind of relationships that you want, this is a great way to begin to look at the lens of how am I going to change that? And a lot of it is how are you relating to your space and how are you relating to yourself? It comes back to that. We talked about this so much, Laurel, over the years, right? On the show is your relationship with yourself is impacting all of the relationships in your life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And I can see where your relationship with your surroundings influences or impacts your relationships with other people and with yourself. And just coming up for me is when I think about my need for solitude as a way to go inward, right? A lot of self-reflection happens in solitude for me. And I can't sit down, you know, to write in my journal or to meditate or even when I pull cards. If there's a pile of laundry in the chair next to me, it doesn't work. I don't have the sense of serenity maybe,
Yeah.
right? I need certain things a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really, it helps me get in touch with really the clarity that is within me, right? That I
Yeah.
need, I need, no, I need less chaos. I won't say no chaos. I
Yeah.
need less chaos around me.
Yeah. 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 Structure, right?
Yes,
You need order and
yes,
structure,
yeah,
which is interesting because that goes back to, what we were talking about was, this idea of what you need more of in your life in order
yes,
to accomplish what you want, right?
yes.
So that's
And
so
it,
cool. That's
and
a great
earlier,
example.
it
Yeah.
is a great example.
Yeah.
When you use the word control,
Mhm.
I was thinking order, order.
Yeah.
Right. It's that orderly, right? Or order that we might need. And structure is exactly that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people don't need that at all. I mean, some people
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Or
there's
they
so
need
many,
it in a different way, right?
yes,
How they see it might be different than how we see it in our way for order. So
yes,
this is, again, know thyself,
yes,
love thyself, love
yes,
how you are and how you're configured in this world, in this lifetime. Don't diss on it and know it well. And then from there, right, start making clear intentions of what you want different, right?
yeah,
And you want to look around your home and let your home speak to you so that it can inform you of maybe some of the things you're not actually seeing for yourself or don't have the time to be looking at, right?
yes.
Reflecting on. Yeah.
And I do think really like, noticing, bringing some awareness to the relationships that you have within that space,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how can your home be an environment in which your relationships are improved, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thriving. Yeah.
Yes. It wasn't in a home setting, but it reminded me of years ago. It was in the early 2000s when the company I worked for was moving its headquarters into a new building that had just been renovated. And in the planning of that building, an intentional, conscious decision was made that all of the windows, which were external, it was an old mill building, all of the windows which overlooked a river were devoted to common space. Because the relationship that the leaders wanted to have with the employees and the relationship that the leaders wanted employees to have with each other had they wanted everyone to have access to this beautiful space with big windows overlooking the river.
Wow. I think that's so cool.
And it was such a testament to the relational leadership where, it wasn't that the leaders got the best view in the biggest offices.
Wow. Wow. Everybody, huh? So
It
cool.
it was a very conscious decision in the planning of that building. And I think we can do that in our home. You know,
Absolutely.
when I think about my home, you know, I still have a very big dining room table. And it's intentional that I wanted a house with a separate dining room because gathering people, loved ones, family, friends around a meal together, that is still something I value tremendously. I have more seating in my dining room than I do in my living room where the television is,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's a conscious choice for me.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
I want not just my house to function, but how do I want the people in my house to feel and be?
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, so right there, I would say, look around at your different rooms in your house and look through the lens that Laurel just talked about. Are you thinking about how you want the people in your house to feel and how you want those relationships to be, right? Do you want to feel connected? Do you want to feel like you're sharing together, right? Like just think about the words themselves and look at your spaces and think about are spaces disconnected? Are they connected? Are seating areas separate? Are they together, right? Like, look again, these words can be such a guide for what's happening and then what's not happening. And if it's not happening the way you want it to happen, then how can you start to make some of these subtle changes around you intentionally to have more of what you want in those relationships and in your life?
Yeah.
And all of these, one of the things that Taylor talked about, which I loved and he kept coming back to, was when we did a whole show on this last year, was the idea of taking small steps, right? How small steps lead to the bigger transformations that many of us want, but don't know how to get there. And we sometimes try to do it all at once rather than just like take a step, make a change, make a small change, make a small change, right? Live with it, see how it feels, modify if you need to, then make the next one, like a step by step rather than, oh my gosh, I have to redo this whole thing. And then sometimes we overshot and we didn't even get where we wanted to go. So we're back to the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking around again, what are the words? What are the words? Let them guide you. Let them be a part of how you, I don't know, do a little self-analysis through the process, Laurel, I want to dig into a little bit. I felt like one of the things that Taylor talked about that I didn't get a chance to converse with him as much as I could have, but I also felt like you and I needed to talk about this on the show with our listeners from our viewpoint was the idea of looking at your life and identifying your giving relationships and your receiving relationships. And I feel like even just that idea of like you talking about making sure you had a dining room where people could sit around, right? Like you wanted to give them the space of receiving a meal from you, right? And having that, and then you receiving from them that sense of community or whatever it is, right? And I love that idea of really going through your relationships in your life and identifying, is this more of a giving relationship or more of a receiving relationship or more mutual? He talked about that reciprocal as well.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because when I think about my dining room, and as you were talking about this, it reminded me of I grew up in a home that the dining room was central. The dining room was used more than the living room.
Mm,
And ironically or serendipitously, the dining room table in my home today is the dining room table that was in my parents' home for
mm,
many years. But I grew up in a household where the coffee was always warm. There was always coffee in the coffee pot. The door was always unlocked and open. And people just came in.
mm.
And often it was conversation over a cup of coffee at the dining room table.
Yeah.
And and when I think about the symbolic nature of that, the energy of a home that is always welcoming and nourishing, you know, it wasn't the meal. It was the sitting and having conversation. It
Yeah.
was the laughter around the table,
Yeah.
right? And people always being welcome at the table,
Mm,
you know. And so that is the energy that I want my home to hold, so that the energy of my home invites those people who are looking for that to come to it.
yeah. Yeah. That's great. So, like taking one room at a time and beginning to
Yes.
look at, what are the words that you would use in those spaces for what more of what you want, right? As we do this, what's around you is within you, right?
Yes.
If you look at your dining room and it's just the table is filled with, it's a space to just
The
everybody
laundry.
drops their stuff and leaves it there, or the laundry. It's the
Yeah.
laundry
Yeah.
table for folding,
Yeah.
right? And it's not a place of coming together, sharing talk, sharing meals,
Yeah.
right? It's a workspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to
And
identify that. Yeah.
and I have two things. I want to go back to the giving and receiving relationships.
Mm,
The reason I have a dining room is because I receive so much by people coming to my table,
mm,
as
mm.
much as I give, right? It's a very
Yeah.
reciprocal
Reciprocal.
place,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The spaces in my home where, I have spaces in my home that aren't giving. They're not set up, designed for giving to others. They are my spaces.
Yeah.
And then there's places where really they're not about me at all. No,
Mm,
I'm going to give the example of the workshop that is in my new home.
yeah.
That is my husband's space.
Yeah. Yep.
That is not a space that I receive from or I give from.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm giving to him by allowing him to have this 700 square foot workshop that he
Yeah.
loves.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important as you go through every room of your house to really identify, what do I need from this space? What do others need from this space?
Mm,
And how can this space, I'll say, function so that it is a place of giving and receiving?
yeah. Yeah. It's great. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't use and address the word clutter,
Oh, please,
in the show
yes.
today, because I do feel like, uh, if we look at Western culture and the direction it has taken over many, 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 many years now, right? We have become a culture of consumption, consumers,
Yes.
right? And so that's receiving, right? We might be giving money, or whatever, but we're receiving things in. So clutter. If you look at your house and you go, "Oh, my house is so cluttered," what you want to be able to see is that you've literally taken in too much, right? And you've done it in a way where it hasn't had an intention or a purpose. If it had an intention or a purpose, it would have its own space. You'd be using it. You'd be have it organized in a way where it's more efficient, right? And so it's really important for each one of us, I think, in the culture that we live in today and the direction that we're moving, um, that we that we become truly honest with ourselves, about what we really need around us. And if we have too much, that it's time to let it go and let it move on. Give. Like if you've received too much, it's too much. You don't know what to do with it all. You can't figure out how to organize it. Give it away. If you're not using it every day, give it away. If you're using it every day, find a place for it. Have it be, this is where this goes, right? This is the home for this thing. And begin to do that piece by piece. I mean, you can do it literally. If everybody did that, if you did one thing every day, right? Just said, I'm going to take this one thing and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, do I really need this? Am I really using this? If I'm not, I'm giving it away. It's like that's 365 things that you have dealt with that year, right? And you're either using it or it's gone.
Yeah. And in addition to, do I need it and am I using it?
Yeah.
The question I ask often is there a purpose of me having it, right? And so I think about this with, things, maybe things of beauty that are in your home,
Yep.
right? They're not an everyday, a necessary, useful item, but they are fulfilling a purpose. And I'll give an example. I have in my home, we have a lot of built-in shelves, and so I've kind of created a few theme shelves. And one of the shelves is themed. I have a box of letters that were my dad's from the 50s right up until the 90s. Some of them were from his cousins when they were in Europe or Japan in the 50s. They were in the service. Some of the letters, well, many of the letters are cards that my parents received on their wedding day. And then a bundle of the letters are letters that my grandmother wrote to my father
Wow.
when he was an adult. And I have them displayed in a box. And there's a few books on that shelf that are letters of a nation, letters of a family. They're books that are letters. And so, it's not really purposeful, but it's of beauty. And
Yeah.
occasionally I read those letters,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it brings me such joy. Unlike maybe, a box of my father's belongings that is in the basement that doesn't bring me joy, that it's
Yeah.
time to get rid of,
Yeah.
right? So that whole thing of like the purposeful, the conscious or conscientious decision, intentional decision of why are we keeping something? Are we giving? Is it giving us pleasure or
Yeah.
whatever it's giving us, or are we holding on to it for other reasons?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think it's funny that you went there with that because I remember when Taylor was talking about receiving relationships, and I think this one's so individual. Everybody's going to think about this in their own way individually, but you are kind of almost honoring your father, right? And being able to go over there and receive, right, what is there, your connection with your father, the wisdom he had, the way that he thought about life, his mentoring of you in a certain kind of way or whatever it is, right, is it's like an altar, where we're giving space to acknowledge that we have received from others a really important part of who we are,
Yeah.
And so, and to live into that consciously reminds us that we can receive from those relationships, even if they're not active, even if those people have passed, it reminds us to be active in what we've received from them.
Yes.
Felt like that was a really interesting way too to for for those of you, I'm not in that stage of life, but if you're in the stage of life where you're raising children, or you're both raising children and taking care of aging parents, right? And you're giving, 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 doing for others often, it's really important that you feel like you have a space where you're receiving.
Oh, it's so important. It is
Yeah,
so important.
critical, really,
And
for
what is
well-being.
that space, right? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't have a separate space,
Right, right.
right?
He used the idea of a bathroom as it was like a place where, right, uh, having like a little picture of whatever your person that you most admire, right? And when you look at it, you're inspired. Every time you look at it, you're like, oh yes, I remember, their words still ring in my head, right? And I'm going to take that into my day to day. It was like that whole idea of, wow, I didn't really think about some of the things that I have around me, but it's true. I mean, what I have around me is a lot of receiving back the inspiration that was given to me over time
Yes.
by the
Yeah.
by the symbolic stuff I have here. Yeah.
And let's talk about you mentioned altar, right? An altar. Let's talk
Mm,
about that for a minute because I know on my altar often, I have so many mementos of nature, right? They're not just on my altar, but if you get in my car, you will. I mean, there's chestnuts in the back seat door, right?
yeah. Yep.
There's sea glass in the front seat door, right? Like, they're just acorns or pine cones or whatever
Yeah.
that might be. In the house that I live, my new house, we have a wood pile at the front, on the front porch in this beautiful round kind of wood holder, right?
Mm,
Log holder. And on top of that are dried flowers and a bird's nest, right? But
mm,
but someone might see my clutter,
mhm.
and to me they are, an altar. They're things that I receive so much, not just joy, but it's something about the things that I keep that I think you've said this before, and other people have said this. When you hold something, you know, what is that feeling of holding something in your hand? And if there is energy there that is a positive, joyful, fulfilling
Mm.
energy, then maybe that's an item that needs to be kept and honored. And
Yeah.
an altar is a great place to do that.
Yeah, and I do think again, and that's why I said, everybody you have to do this for yourself. You have to do this individually for yourself with no one else in mind as you go through this because what might look like clutter to somebody, the dried flowers and the bird's nest or whatever, right? Somebody might go, "What's that doing there?" You're like, "Well, every time I walk by it, it makes me happy because I think about when I found the bird's nest. I think about what if birds came over and just sat in that nest for, like whatever it is, right? It lifts me. It lifts me. It makes me happy when I see it, and that's the point.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
that is not the energy of clutter, right?
Right. That's right. That's right. Clutter doesn't make you happy. It makes you tired.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. They're right. And so if you think about energy, something filling your energy or draining your energy, I think
Yeah.
that's it. You know,
Yes.
if
Absolutely.
if my father's belongings in my house drained my energy, then I would know it's time to get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Time for somebody else to get them
That's
or
right. Right.
or to them to be. I mean, I don't want all my children to save all my stuff of my life. I don't care. Like when I'm gone, right? If you, before I go, it's going to be, do you want any of this? If you don't want any of this, off it goes to Goodwill or I burn some of it because it's meaningless and it needs to go to ashes like I will, that kind of thing. So I think part of this is really also being willing to take responsibility and ownership for what is around you. And if you look at it through that lens of what is around you is within you, if you woke up tomorrow and you looked around your house and you said, I look around and everything makes me feel so happy and so light and so organized or complete, or what are the words you want to feel, right? That's how you want to make your environment. Because if
Yes,
you do it out there, it will happen in here.
that's right.
Yeah.
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 Well, such
Oh.
a good conversation.
Yeah, yeah, and I think food for thought. And I'm asking people to please go deeper with this. Don't take it just superficially because if you look at some of the metaphysical texts that have been written over the centuries by many, many wise people of all kinds of throughout the centuries. So, you can go back to the 17, I don't know, when the Bible, whenever the Bible came into being, right? It's all a metaphor of the metaphysical of how to bring forth what you want, right? And to live more spiritually in the world. And so, just taking ownership of your home and starting right there is the perfect place to do that and to watch the magic of what can
Yes.
happen when you do it. So
Yes.
maybe
Thank you.
this year might be the year for everybody to really play a little more magical in the world of transformation, right? Yeah. What is
Yes.
out there is within. So play on both sides and see what
Mm.
happens. Yeah.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be a really good play strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, Laurel.
We'll be back for more, won't we, Laurel?
We
Yeah.
will.
All right. But for now, we've given you so much food for thought. I hope this inspired you today to look around you. Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you
If you
so much.
need if you need more support, we are here for you as always.
As always. All right.
Mm.
Off we go.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.